Morning, folks. All right, you guys. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the design and why it's so important to read the book Heal Your Wounds, Find Your True Self. There are exactly 5 wounds: humiliation, rejection, abandonment, and injustice. Rejection, abandonment, humiliation, injustice. All right, so there's 5 of them, okay? And these 5 wounds run on autopilot. The reason it's so important to identify them is because we have created them in order to discover who we are, okay? So this has been the standard. This has been the only 5 things that we've ever had as obstacles, I guess you can say. All right. Now, the reason it's so important, and I'm not even going to talk about the book because I want you to read the book, is this. I want you to consider the fact that these 5 things are the only thing determining how someone behaves in your reality. If these 5 things are the only thing determining how someone behaves, this is the answer to why someone has hurt you, or why you think you're hurt, or what's going on. So the object of the game is to make the unconscious visible. That's what's important. Can I make the unconscious visible? The reason this is super duper important is because the unconscious continues to play over and over and over and over again until you have realized what you are holding. This is the part that's running on autopilot, and so it's super important to identify it. So you guys have heard this example before, but I'm going to give you a quick example of how something like this was the answer, okay? So just to give you some background, my whole life I was discriminated against because of my appearance. In various stages of my life, this has occurred. Okay? What I didn't realize is that as a 5-year-old child, an innocent little thing, an innocent little observation caused this to take a life of its own and repeat throughout my history. So it was an innocent thing. It's very simple. Those teachers took one look at my appearance and decided that I needed help learning English. So they placed me in special needs classes. Here's the thing. I've always been a lot smarter than I look. Appearances are not what they seem. You shouldn't judge a book by its cover. And here's the other half. I learned to speak English before I learned to speak Spanish. Although I understood Spanish, I was speaking English because I had been in preschool since I was 2. And so since I was 2, I was taught English, not Spanish. So I had to learn Spanish still. I understood it, but did not speak it. So literally, instead of the advanced placement class I belonged in, they put me in special needs for English. Okay? Now, I was highly insulted. I was only a kid. I was 5 years old. I was highly insulted back then. But I made the observation. People judge you based on appearances, and they decide. Tiny little thought took a life of its own, continued throughout my life, and haunted me over and over and over again until very recently. Okay? Until it happened again in my own neighborhood very recently. And no one else could understand why, unless they have the context that since I was 5, this had been happening. And that's what was being triggered. Okay? This is why I say the answer is in the wound, is in the trigger. Once I understood that, in my mind's eye, the woman that had discriminated against me, and she's still racist, I hugged her. And I appreciated her showing up, because she enlightened me as to how long I have held this wound. Okay? I say this because if you are not making the unconscious visible, have you noticed how all these people ran on autopilot for me, hurting me over and over and over again, but I didn't understand where the pain was coming from. This is what I mean. You make the unconscious visible. This is the object of the game. Your points of contention are the answer. You are automating these things all the time. So when you all ask me, okay, I just don't understand what I was thinking. What the hell? Who writes these kind of stories? Well, if you don't take the time to understand that you did, and you don't make the unconscious visible, it's going to continue to haunt you and trip you up. In Spanish, we call this tripping over the same rock. Okay? That would be what I'm trying to say is tripping over the same obstacle over and over again. But it does repeat on autopilot, and these people are doing you the extreme favor of showing up this way for you to see what's going on in your unconscious mind. You got to look into yourself, okay? So what's difficult here is when we get sucked into this situation, we are so tempted to be angry. We are so tempted to be angry at them. We're so tempted to be like, you did this to me. Problem with that is that they are running on autopilot. This is where Christ says, please forgive them. They know not what they do. As he is crucified, he understood that this was his worst nightmare come true and that they were running on autopilot based on this story. Okay? Same thing is happening for you. You must realize, you must forgive them. They know not what they do. They are running an autopilot in order for you to see yourself. And no matter how ugly it is, in my case, it was discrimination. Okay. No matter what the act is, no matter how heinous it is, if you don't become aware of the unconscious pattern that has been playing since you were a kid, it's going to continue to happen throughout your life like it did for me. It plagued me in my high school years, in my elementary school years, and then later on in life until now. It has stopped. The wound is gone, but I pulled out that wound from the beginning. And that person, as angry as I was in the moment, actually helped me see that big time. Without this person, I don't see it. Her action didn't change. She still discriminates. She still has, the idea that Hispanics shouldn't live in her neighborhood or whatever. That's okay. That's fine. Nothing has to change except for the fact that she helped me see into myself. Radical forgiveness is about understanding you are the storyteller. You cannot be victim and victor at the same time, but you also have to understand how to use the components that are in your reality in order to see into yourself. The object of the game is to fall in love with everything that made you you, because even these painful memories do not have to be triggers if you accept them. If you truly, truly love who you are, you will love the experiences that caused you the most pain as well. We wear this costume. We are truly not wounded. We pretend to wear this costume because it's not what happened that matters. See, what happens is universal. It's universal. It's going to happen. Shit's going to happen. What matters is not that it happened. It's what you do with the information. It's how you define it. It's how you decide is happening. This is where you can do something. This is where you discover who you are. This is where you realize that it's not what happened, but what you do that matters, because this is defining you. That's important. It's It's a skill. It takes practice to develop, but it's going to mean you're going to have to be compassionate. You're going to have to understand that anyone that comes into your reality is serving you. As tempted as you are to push them away, to label them or whatever, understand this. They are your reflected image, your body, your child. The universe, universal experience made real, your story, is your child Christ. You are God the source. The outer reflection is your child. If you are the source light, the universe is the shadow, this is your child Christ. That which is made in your image, your universal experience made into different patterns to look like people, places, and things, but this is your child. No matter how ugly this person is, no matter whatever, and by ugly I don't mean physically, I mean how they're treating you. It's you. With this understanding, you have compassion. With this understanding, you can see into your story. With this understanding, you can make the unconscious visible. Once you do that, it doesn't have to continue to play over and over and over again. Until you do, it will continue to play over and over again. So even if what happened was heinous in your mind's eye to you, they did you the extreme favor of waking you up and helping you see into your wounded aspects. It's really, really important because you want to get off the hamster wheel as soon as possible. So you can appreciate without having to bypass, without having to say, oh, I want to rewrite what happened. No, don't rewrite it. It made you you. Okay? The most powerful person on earth loves their darkness as well. The most powerful person on earth is okay with everything that has happened to them, has totally made peace with all of their experiences, and is totally okay with their wounded aspects as well. This is crucial because as the source image, if you are okay with you, you will meet people that are okay with you over and over again. If you are not okay with you because you're still holding on to some grievance, something somewhere, you've forgotten that you hired them to play the villain so you could discover that you were the hero, or you're mad at them because they played a really great Joker and you're mad because they were really good at being the Joker in your story. They were really good at being the evil character and you're mad, then you have missed your mark because as creator, you own all of it. And I promise you that if it is happening to you, it is your story and yours alone. It's not Tom, Dick, or Harry's. It's yours. This allows us to move in forgiveness, let go of the trigger, understand what is playing, make the unconscious visible, and once that is visible, you can work on loving and owning this as well. You want to not avoid triggers, but you want to be able to look at them scientifically and look at them so that you can understand what's going on. The more practice you have doing this, the easier life gets because you won't be triggered as often. Okay? But it's important. It's an important part of the equation. It's super, super important because whatever you don't deal with will follow you into your personal relationships. And you don't want to do that. The object of the game is to make peace with everything you are. And love that. And love that. Love everything. Okay? That's easier said than done. For example, and I'm honest just so you understand, like I'm being totally real with you. Okay? My father is the molesting type. I shouldn't love this. And yet I do. It's part of the broken, wounded aspects that I need to be able to relate to. Why? Because this is a huge problem in the universe. To be honest, I understand a few things. I was born female on purpose. And I understood the generalized wound that is going on because we live in a patriarchal society now. And as such, I know, and this is very common, it's very rare the woman that hasn't been forced into a situation that's uncomfortable either as a child, as a teen, or just because she's a woman. It's a problem. So I could see where I would volunteer to understand this problem and then serve the world and show them how I overcame it. This is how I overcame it. This is what allows me to have healthy relationships. This is now not being addressed in my personal life. I'm free to be happy. And whoever I choose loves me and worships me and wants to be with me. It's amazing. I'm so fortunate. But to get here, I had to be okay with me. And I'm also able to help others in the situation. So I'm serving exactly like I'm supposed to. And everyone volunteered to do this. And if you understand that, you can make peace with these situations. So remember, please read this book. At bare minimum, you need to understand why you put on your mask, what you did to compensate, and what's running on autopilot. When you read this book, you will understand why people behave the way that they did in your reality. Most of us, because we're asking why of causation, we are suffering. We've forgotten that we are, in fact, the source image and that all of this is occurring for us. And so we tend to suffer and get into we want to start picking up our own power again and not thinking of it this way. We want to start truly loving ourselves, because that, when you truly do that, is the autopilot self-concept that runs on, autopilot, where people just show up and they're like, baby, I want to give it all to you. I love you. You're my universe. You're everything. You're everything. Your love is so powerful. I want to marry you. I want to, whatever. They all say it. I don't care who it is. They all say it. When you feel this way about yourself. When you feel this way about yourself, every single human being that you decide to be in a romantic relationship will sound this way. This is the normal. This is the vibe that you're after. This is why you sit here and you say, he loves me, he loves me, he loves me, he loves me, or she loves me, she loves me, she loves me. Those of you that are trying to convince yourself, this is what you're after. You are after this. The place where you are always treated royally, where everyone behaves, even the narcissistic guy or gal all of a sudden changes their tune and does whatever you say. It's that powerful. This is how you discover that in love is love reflected. But the kingdom is not out there. It's in here. The relationship with you, how you feel about the things that have occurred to you, how you feel about what happened in your past, how you are afraid of things, whatever it may be, all of this is occurring outside in varying degrees. And I say this very specifically, in varying degrees. So for example, if you are slightly fearful about anything, I don't care what it is, okay? You are going to see fear in varying degrees in every direction. So you will see someone who's afraid to leave the house and fearful of everything to an extreme that you can't even identify as you, because you have a tiny version of fear and this is an extreme version of fear. And you will see every variation on through courage, the extreme absence of fear. Because everything exists in eternity. And this trips you guys up because you guys look at it very specifically and say, how is that me? I am not that fearful. There's no way that's me. But you're not understanding. If fear shows up outside, you have fear inside. It's a mirror. Look at it. Don't judge it. Understand how it's serving you, because if someone showed up in my reality that afraid, I clearly have something I have to work on. Okay? It's a mirror. Don't get tripped up in the nuances of things being slightly different. They're going to be slightly different. Not by much. Or maybe they will be. Maybe they'll be extreme version of what you don't realize you are. But the object of the game is to realize you are the source image, and you are seeing your reflected image, and the invisible thoughts that you don't have are making what's visible. There is no excuse for you not knowing you are the source. There is no excuse for not knowing your power. There is no excuse, because it's all visible. And only you have your unique perspective. Only you see what you see, because this is how you figure out who you are. But you must unify the two images and understand that everything is you. No fucking exceptions. Okay? None. Zero. Zero. If you are saying, that's not me, you missed your mark, because God cannot be divided. So you either own the whole thing or you don't control your world. Pick your poison. Do you want dominion over your world like you've always had, or do you want to continue to live unconsciously and point fingers and blame people for being as you are in your mind? There is no division. It's just you and your story. And I'll be honest with you, what drives me crazy is you hear me say, your story comes to life, turns to people, places, and things. How you think, your word, your story is what's making the illusion of others that is your story come to life. So it is your image. And yet you turn around and say, but he did this to me, and blah, 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 and I can't get over what my mama did, and I can't get over what my papa did, or whatever you do. You just heard me say, your story is making them appear as they do on autopilot. You just said you accepted it. Why in the... Okay? Why do you still go back then and say, I'm still angry at what they did? They didn't do anything. It's your story come to life. It's your image. It's your child, your creation. This experience is your creation based on what you're saying and hear. I can't make it any clearer. I can't be any simpler. I don't understand how anyone can hold any grievances if you understood that it's only you and your story in this world, and you are here for the sake of experience, and your story is making your experience. So stop holding grievances. Forgive. Let go. Unless you wish for it to repeat in another body over and over again until you figure out you're the only constant. We have an eternity. We can sit here all day for the rest of our lives, an eternity. I don't care. Or you can stop the insanity and understand the design. That's really what's going to boil down to. You're going to stop the insanity, understand the design, and you're going to let go of what he, she did to me. He, she didn't do anything except what your story said. So own your story so that you take your power back. The last thing I want to hear is he, she did this to me. I can't forgive my daddy. I can't forgive my mama. I can't forgive my child. I can't forgive my wife. I can't forgive my husband. Okay. And then when it repeats over and over again because you're the source, you'll eventually realize that the prison is your lack of forgiveness. This is the anchor. This is what will repeat. You just failed the trigger and the test, and it will continue to run on autopilot, and you will cross this point on the wheel yet again. Or you can get yourself off this wheel. You can realize everything is you. You can change your story. You can own your story. You can stop wasting time. Because perhaps the most important thing you have to remember is, in holding your grievance, you go down with the ship. So if you declare this person is narcissistic and you keep this narcissism, then they will remain the narcissist. This is your version. This is your body. This is your child, the narcissist. And they will remain this way, and you go down with the ship. And you have to deal with this narcissist that you created. But if you took the time to truly love your creation, to accept it, to understand everything that it is, to understand your universe as your child, okay? The difference here is you have mastered self-love. You have mastered self-love to the degree where you are loved and you are cherished and you are desired, and everything you want, every man or woman, whatever, will appear. There is a thing called the square of life, and you sit right smack dab in the middle of this square. So if we were to think of this square like a 3D box, the square of life holds health, wealth, relationship, and self-expression. If any of these things are off, your abundance is messed with. Your natural state of abundance is messed with. Wherever you short yourself on this square, you will be taking from your wallet. You will be taking from the quality of your relationships. If you can remember you are at the center of everything and you start seeing people, you start forgiving, you truly start owning your story, you will find that this square of life runs on autopilot for you. But you must decide who is healed. You must decide to mother yourself. You must decide to pause, to change the story. You must remember, okay, is how I'm thinking right now of this person how I want to be seen, because this is my child. This is my image. This is my reflected image. This is my story made real. So is my story right now loving towards myself, because that is myself? If you start thinking like this, you will understand who the real enemy is. To be yourself when you are in situations you can't forgive, because you are the creator of these stories. So a perfect example is, I have a friend of mine who was who misses someone from 10 years ago. And so for 10 years, she's told the same story. And recently, she looked at this gentleman's pictures, and he has matured, aged, looks great, debonair, like, you know, he's matured, he's become different. And what she realized is, in her story, in her 10-year grievance, she never left room for his growth, for his maturity, and yet physically he's not where he was 10 years ago. But she, in her mind, is going down with the 10-year-old ship. But think about how much you've changed in 10 years. Is it possible that the story you are holding is serving as your anchor? And is it possible for this person to have changed? Of course it is. You did. You grew. You are deciding the power of these things. And if you remember everything as you, things will change. Things will absolutely change in your favor. But this power is yours. This true love and kindness, this, you know, God loves its creation. Why? It's your own image. And that's the insanity, you guys. You've been given the answer. You were told there is nothing else. You are everything. You are the universe. We're given this book, and you were given several other holy books, and every single book tells you you have dominion over your world, tells you everything is mental, tells you to focus on you, tells you the kingdom's not out there, and the insanity that you guys do the opposite of everything these books say doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me because you're given the answer. You've been given the answer, and because you don't know yourself, you doubt your own divinity. Because you don't know yourself, you let fear decide who you are instead of faith. Because you don't know yourself. But if you did, when you hear you are God, everything is made in your image, when you hear how to love yourself, when you understand the story, when you understand everything is you, when you stop making divisions, because you really truly get, oh, everything is me. When you get that, the world is a different place because you'll understand the mystery. You'll understand everything ever written. You'll understand your divinity. You'll understand everything is you. You will give everything its proper praise. So when you ask me, how do you love? That's how you love powerfully. Because if you understand everything is you and you love yourself, you're going to act accordingly because yourself doesn't end with you. Yourself is universal. It's a universal image. So I want you to take what I'm saying and think about it. Realize your story becomes real. Your story makes your children. And everything outside of you is your son, Christ. And you are God, and yes, it is your image. It's true. Factual. You must discover how your omnipresence is the 3D plane. And the only way to discover that is to become aware of your story because that's what you're experiencing. When you understand the miracle of that, you'll be able to enjoy your life. You have your full power back. You are awake in the dream. When you're able to see how the whole thing is rigged in your favor, you're able to let go of fear and you're able to trust. And there's a certain level of surrender that is required because in manifestation, if you do not surrender, it leads to delusion. Painful delusions. Trust. Let go. Know that everything is set up in your favor. Remember, everything is you. Remember, your story is what's being made visible. That everyone must show you into yourself so you can discover who you are. Understand how it's serving you, even when it appears painful. And apply radical forgiveness for the things that you now understand you set up so that you could wake up to this moment. But if you guys want to live differently, if you guys want to experience the reality that you're looking for, it's going to require a major focus on yourself and your understanding of what self is. Okay? Hope this helps. I have another call to get to. So think about what I'm saying. Try to understand everything is you, and start loving you. Start loving you. It will go a long, long way. Most of you ask that question. I don't know how to love myself. Begin with compassion for your story. Begin with recognition of your story. Begin falling in love with your story. Forgive the things that you hired them to do. Think of your reality like a movie that you wanted to experience. Think of your reality this way. It's a movie you wanted to experience. Okay, so if it's a movie you wanted to experience and you want to think of reality this way, then take your power back as director and understood that you hired all of these actors. So if you hired a really good Batman, don't get mad at him for being a really good Batman. Do you see this analogy? In other words, don't get mad at the villain if you hired the villain to make sure that you could be the hero. Most of us, the reason we suffer is because we haven't understood the full design because we can't see behind the veil yet. Not everybody, because a lot of us can, but some of us can't. And so we're judging that moment and partially not understanding what's behind it, so we can't appreciate it. And that's what you need. Appreciation and understanding of your story. This will provide the clarity. It will get you to stop asking why of causation. It'll get you to stop suffering. It'll get you to live your life. And best of all, you will get to experience the reality you want if you focus on healing you. If you focus on getting rid of your fears. If you focus on developing your understanding. If you focus on these things, you will suffer less. You will live your life more fully. And you will notice that the 3D reality serves you. So you decide. You decide. Are you going to be Moses the slave who has to do what the ruling class elite does? And the ruling class elite is your predominant way of thinking. Are you that person whom the clay is deciding who you are and what you are? It is an option. Or are you going to ride the other horse? Because we can't mount both of them at the same time. Are you going to ride the other horse in which you understood that you and your story is what's being made visible outside, and you rule over it in peace because you're not going to be tyrannical about it because you know everything is you, and you're going to allow the world to serve you? You decide which one of these states you want to be. There's no judgment. But know this. One is a life of suffering in which you go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down based on the circumstances. And another is a life of peace and calm regardless of what's going on out here. Now, if you ask me, since I've seen both, which do I prefer? I'm going to choose peace every time. Clarity. I've lived both. Thanks to the understanding I gained from this side, I now choose this side consciously. You must learn to do the same. Love you guys. I have a road trip to get to and a phone call to get to. So consider what I'm saying. Think about what I'm saying. Anytime you get tripped up, remember this. And lastly, don't forget what I always say. If what you're thinking is causing you pain, embrace the pain and understand the pain is serving you. It's serving as an alarm. It's going, wah, 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 wah. Warning, your current mode of thinking is taking you away from your desire. I will cause you pain so that you can realize that your thinking is taking you away from your desire. And if you can understand that, then you can embrace the pain. Fear is the beginning of wisdom. Because if the law works both forward and reverse, understanding what happens when you are in fear is very helpful information for you to choose consciously not to be afraid. It's the beginning of your wisdom. Since the law works both forward and reverse, it'll catch you when you are painfully thinking incorrectly and going down the ship that you don't want to. This is when I need you to mother yourself and change the narrative. Pause. Don't avoid the fear, but catch yourself and realize how it's serving you. This will take you really far in life, I promise. Because you will find that if everything is serving you, you will see it unfold, but you will be more at peace when you're present, and you won't be thinking about what happened 10 years ago. You'll be here now. That's where you need to be. Okay? Love you guys. I'm late for my call. Bye.